Whispers in the Wind. Chapter 1. A Chance Encounter. The sun's rays danced through the coffee shop windows, casting a warm glow on the scattered books and laptops spread across the wooden tables as I settled into my usual routine. As librarian by day and writer by night, I was no stranger to solitude, but it was comforting nonetheless. The familiar smell of freshly ground coffee beans filled the air as I immersed myself in the world of words, escaping into characters that understood me better than most human beings ever could. My fingers moved deftly over the keyboard as my mind crafted tales that captured love's essence, the tender moments, the heart-pounding romance, and the bittersweet goodbyes. Time blurred together in this haven, lost within pages turned to parchment by the strokes of my imagination. A sudden clatter of cups from behind startled me, drawing attention away from the unfolding love story on screen. Turning, I found myself face to face with a man whose features were as unexpected as a stormy sky, jet black hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed to hold tales untold. They were eyes you couldn't look away from, like staring into the vast expanse of an uncharted ocean. In an instant, my carefully constructed walls teetered on the brink of collapse. A flush of embarrassment painted my cheeks as I awkwardly fumbled for my coffee mug. "Sorry about that," he said with a hint of a smile that could disarm 1,000 cannons. His deep voice resonated in my chest like a long-forgotten melody. "No need to apologize." My words came out lighter than air, not wanting to intrude on this unexpected interlude. He accepted the cup offered and sat across from me, his gaze lingering, piercing through the veil of strangers. "Just passing through," he stated matter-of-factly before taking a sip, eyes never leaving mine. My skin hummed as if the coffee had turned into liquid electricity under his attentive scrutiny. There was something about him that didn't quite fit, like trying to grasp a whisper carried on a breeze. Each day brought new patrons, yet none had lingered this long, sipping their drink without any intention of lingering over it. His gaze wandered between the bookshelves lined with tales of love and heartache before returning to me with a knowing look that made my pulse quicken. The connection sparked from nothing more than coincidence seemed absurd, but there he sat, a temporary stranger in this cocoon of familiarity I had built. My eyes drifted back to my laptop screen as an idea began forming, The Wanderer, a story about a chance encounter and the unexpected journey it sets off, yet no one knew the real traveler's path. As I scribbled down the opening lines, Jake vanished into the crowd once more, a fleeting apparition, leaving behind only the lingering taste of an unspoken promise. Days passed, but the memory lingered, casting an inquisitive shadow over every word written. My days became a dance between the familiar pages and thoughts of those eyes, those secrets hidden behind his smile and lips that hinted at stories untold. I found myself taking detours through town to pass by this coffee shop, hoping for another glance. Finally, on the 4th day's attempt, there he was, the stranger who had breached my world with a mere collision. Coincidence or fate? Jake asked as he slid onto his usual stool, that mischievous smile reappearing. His presence felt like an uninvited guest who refused to leave. A shared nod led us into an impromptu conversation about books and journeys, a common language that transcended time zones. He spoke with a fire that ignited my curiosity. The way he spoke of love was as if it had been plucked straight from one of my stories, passionate, unpredictable yet true. I dared to glimpse his past through his words but couldn't fathom why those eyes were so hauntingly familiar. Jake didn't speak of distant lands or exotic cultures as other travelers did. Instead, there were whispers of dreams and heartaches. My pen paused mid-sentence as he spoke of love stories, an elusive concept that danced at the tip of his tongue. "You're writing a story," he mused, eyes darting to my laptop. "About us?" I laughed nervously, shaking my head, a futile attempt at distance. He nodded toward the screen. The title, The Wanderer, the same as the story brewing in my mind? Coincidence or more? My lips parted to ask, but a sudden burst of wind outside interrupted our moment. In a blur, he stood up to close his window and was gone before I could say his name, leaving behind an impression and a crumpled receipt with a single word scribbled on it: meet me. My fingers trembled as I took the paper, the encounter feeling both exhilarating and unsettling. It wasn't until nightfall, curled under my blanket with The Wanderer open in front of me, that I discovered his phone number scrawled within. No message or explanation, only a name: Jake. The wind howling outside seemed to carry an echo of his words, urging me to step out into the unknown. That evening, beneath the same coffee shop's awning where our lives intersected, I stood amidst the quiet din of town life, heart pounding in anticipation. He materialized from the night, tall and lean with a smile that had become my guiding star. Would you rather live 1,000 lifetimes exploring or spend them all within one love? His question sent shivers down my spine as he drew close, an unsettling sense of belonging taking hold. I chose love, but Jake's smile hinted at the complexity of his own choices. As though fate had finally given into curiosity, our chance meetings blossomed into a rhythm: the coffee shop, then by the river, and even on moonlit walks through town. Our conversations flowed like an unspoken language, a symphony of shared passions amidst the mundane routines we lived. Jake spoke of love as not being the destination but the journey, each step taken with another beside you. I sensed there was more to this man than his enigmatic aura, but he remained elusive about it all. Secrets are best served in whispers, I mused, and yet I found myself longing for those untold chapters. One fateful evening, beneath a bridge spanning the river, Jake posed his question with an intensity that made my pulse race. A silent understanding passed between us as if the wind carried our deepest desires. I chose love, and he smiled, lips curling upward in a gesture both tender and foreboding. Our words wove into tales of adventures half-lived, and I couldn't help but wonder, what secrets did those eyes harbor? Jake leaned closer, breaths mingling with each other's, a moment that should have been cliché yet felt as real as the beat of my heart. The world seemed to spin in sync with our connection, yet a fear of vulnerability kept us at arm's length. I knew nothing about him save for a name and those piercing blue eyes, eyes that spoke of tales lived and untold dreams. Chapter 2. Whispers of Desire. The days blended into weeks, whispers turned into more than just words exchanged between two strangers. Jake would sit across from me in the coffee shop, speaking of love as a bridge connecting the unexplored corners of souls. I found myself reading him in stolen glances, the way he looked at life, and then there were moments when our eyes met, carrying worlds within them. His stories were woven with dreams yet held shadows, reminders that love was not merely the destination but the act of traversing it together. Jake spoke with such fervor it seemed to awaken the wanderer within me, a dream I thought long buried. Our laughter intertwined as we strolled along the river, and beneath the moonlight, it felt like our stories were interwoven. Yet every time a connection seemed close to forming, his gaze drifted into memory's realm. I learned of the man behind those eyes, passionate words hidden within books. The day came when I asked him to share one of these tales, a story from his own life. Jake hesitated, took my hand with it, and spoke about the girl he once loved, a tale that left me breathless, their journey through Europe's back roads in search of love, not as an act but a state. It was more than just a memory, it felt like an echo, echoes of what could be if only we dared to take those first steps together. His voice laced with longing for something else, something that made his eyes shimmer with the past and yearned for the future. An unspoken understanding passed between us, as though the wind itself had delivered a message: run. One night, beneath the stars, he proposed a journey, a 1,000-mile bike ride to Spain, where I could read about my own wanderlust. The offer was reckless yet irresistible, a tale waiting to be written. We stood there, faces bathed in moonlight, as if the wind carried us toward the unknown. Jake said his story would change with me by his side, another's heart beating in rhythm with his. A question hovered on my lips: why Spain? He spoke of a novel he wanted to write, a love letter through landscapes and miles, not just words. With each day, my resolve weakened, curiosity and fear in a silent battle. On the eve of the moon's full face, I nodded, the wanderer within me, desperate for stories both lived and to be lived. His laughter echoed as I accepted his hand, sealing our fate under the same awning where our journey began. Two souls who understood love wasn't merely a story but the act of traversing it together. Our first day on the road started with laughter amidst the early morning mist, and before we knew it, hundreds of miles were behind us. He would speak of his novel as it unfolded, a living tale, weaving our stories in ink and sweat. In those hours, Jake spoke of a girl named Sophia, a love that had ended abruptly, leaving him lost on an unfamiliar continent. I felt closer to him yet far from understanding the depth of his sorrow or his dreams. We shared laughter but also moments of quiet contemplation, times when words seemed pointless in the face of such vast landscapes. There were days spent under a sky so full it made promises with stars, nights sheltered by moonlight and rain, tales that echoed my deepest desires. Though I yearned to know more about him, every question was met with silence or another story within his novel. In Spain's heat, he read from a draft, a tale of two souls seeking something in each other they'd yet discover, leaving the reader with a sense of longing for what could be. It wasn't until we reached Paris that Sophia resurfaced, a woman whose love was as unpredictable as wind and just as beautiful, a love that left him yearning. Each day, his novel unfolded in whispers as he read aloud from the draft on the banks of Seine, every line a promise and each mile traversed deeper into his heart. I sensed there was more to his story than the lines on paper, but Jake's gaze drifted toward the horizon, toward Sophia or dreams yet unknown. It was then that a question formed in me, a plea for understanding: why Spain? Why now? He looked at me with eyes brimming with an unspoken longing. The wind carried our words into each other's ears as he replied, because you've been writing this chapter with your heart. In Barcelona's old town, beneath the city of stars, Jake's tale turned to mine, a tale of dreams and fears, a journey I'd yet embark on. As we dined over paella under the night sky, he whispered his book title, The Girl in My Heart, leaving an open chapter, ours. Chapter 3. Love's Embrace. We crossed borders into Italy, our words weaving a narrative as they traversed landscapes far from home. One dawn in Florence's heart, beneath frescoes of a city that painted dreams large upon walls, Jake shared the next chapter, a journey toward me and another he'd yet find. It was then I asked, the question I dared not voice: why Spain? His eyes held an answer. Sophia had left, leaving him lost on his travels yet yearning for connection, a tale of finding love amidst loss, finding yourself within that journey. He spoke of Sophia's smile as though it bore the promise of another chapter yet to come, the story of our lives intertwined by love and longing. The wind carried our words, bearing secrets we'd shared under skies we once called home. It was in Florence that I understood. Spain had been a chapter from his life, a bridge toward me, a reminder that he needed someone brave enough to read on the page. For him, Spain was never just about Sophia but about finding companionship. It wasn't until Paris, the city of love, when I found my own answer. I'd been writing this chapter with my heart for so long. Spain had simply presented an empty page, a chance to write another story. He revealed he'd chosen me not merely as his companion on a journey but as the muse to complete the girl in my heart. It was then that our hearts became the pages he sought, each mile traversed becoming ink on blank sheets. We were no longer reading from drafts, we were creating our novel together. We reached Rome as love swirled around us, a city of ancient stones and dreams, each kiss a promise to fill those empty pages with more than words. The wind carried them into our souls. And though it seemed like an ending, our stories were merely unfolding, a tale that would leave both the girl in his heart and Sophia behind. In Rome, I asked him about Sophia's journey, not wanting my story tainted by someone else's dreams. His words were heavy. Sophia left him searching for love, a dream he believed had finally found its way to me, the man reading at the page of life, me. With a newfound courage, Jake confessed that I was his muse and promised they'd leave no empty pages behind. And so we rode into the night, our hearts and tales entwined under starlight, the wind carrying the weight of what was yet to come. It seemed fitting. This journey wasn't about finding love but the act of writing a love story together. Upon reaching Venice, where canals painted dreams in watercolors, Jake proposed an idea. I write the ending. He read it aloud as we watched the sun dip into the sea, a tale of two souls becoming one. His hand held mine firmly, his eyes shone with the promise of new pages yet to come, the wind whispering tales from another time and place. The story wasn't merely a journey but an act of courage, living life on blank pages, no longer just reading. I wrote, and he read aloud, a dance in ink as we floated into the Adriatic Sea, embracing with hearts full and stories incomplete. We'd create our own novel together, the wind carrying every word into each other's souls. With a single stroke of his pen, we'd fill the pages, making it ours, two stories intertwining into one, a tale that would never truly end. As sun dipped below sea, I realized our journey wasn't about finding love but writing life in ink and miles, the act of traversing both together, heart to heart, a story to be told by heartbeats, not just words. It was there, in the embrace, under a sky that whispered tales from far-off lands, as I read aloud for him, a tale of two hearts seeking adventure and companionship, a love waiting to be written. We found an old boat on the Adriatic shore, the wind bearing our dreams, sailing into the unknown with the world as our page. The sun dipped, casting gold upon the sea, the page before us blank yet full with promise, a dance of ink against canvas skies.